With every single episode that I publish for the AI Driven Marketer, I put a ton of time into creating the thumbnail because we all know that people do judge a book by its cover. And a thumbnail for a podcast or for a YouTube channel goes a long, long way. I even use it for my social media in order to promote the episode. And I highly recommend for anybody who's doing any kind of media, putting more time into the visual asset, the visual representation of the long form show. Even if it's a blog post, you need to be thinking about how to create a visual representation of it. And for a YouTube channel, it's obvious. Like if you're not creating any good thumbnails, like your podcast, your show on YouTube is just never going to take off. And that's why I wanted to share with you my new process for using AI to build pretty nice looking thumbnails. I've been on a long journey of trying to improve the thumbnail, and I finally feel like I've landed in a place where I'm like, okay, this is smooth. It's faster than it used to be. It used to take me 90 minutes to come up with a thumbnail. It's now down to 45 minutes, and it's gotten better with tools like this new ChatGPT image generator and some of the AI tools in Photoshop. So if you're listening to this, I will say that this is a fairly visual episode. While most episodes you can get by with listening, this one you're going to have to watch. But I promise, whether you're on Apple or YouTube or Spotify, you can watch the video on all three, or just come to Sanchez.com and find the video there to watch. So follow along with me, and I'll walk you step by step through the process, starting with looking at my YouTube channel. You can see, like, when I first started, I didn't even focus on thumbnails. Sometimes it's just important to start, and I knocked out 9 episodes without any thumbnails, because starting is more important than perfecting, and then you can improve as you go. And you can see from here that I started this thumbnail design where I had this template where I was putting myself in the 404 TV head character, and it was an easy way to just crop out the image so I could have myself or the guest in the TV quickly, and I could use AI to fill in the rest of it. I've even done a whole episode. You could see like the AI design is here is kind of my old process that I used to use in that particular style, where I was essentially dropping the design. But these took a long time because Mid-Journey was the best, but it took a lot of image generation to get to just one usable image, right? And I did this for a long time. This was my go-to. I had some even like these ones where it was like a very template looking thing. But I stuck to that one style of using the TV head character on the right side, and then I started deviating and testing out different things. And some things worked, some things didn't, some things were easy, some things were hard, and I kind of just meandered my way through all different kinds. I did find a consistent style earlier in this year where I was just using the TV head character as like a consistent character for the show. I thought we were vibing, I thought we were doing something good, but I eventually got feedback from everybody on LinkedIn saying, hey, we like you way better in the images. You should continually put yourself in there because this show is very personal brand heavy. That's why I introduced myself as Dan Chez. Dan Sanchez, my friends call me Dan Chez, right? Like that's a thing. We have a thing going on. And people like to see the person behind the show, especially a show on AI where there's a bunch of different AI-driven podcast or YouTube channels out there where there is no person. It's like fully AI generated. And since this one's not one, it's just that the topic's about AI. They wanted to see the person, myself, and sometimes my brother Travis from Bot Bros, represented in the thumbnail itself to show that human side. Because as we go more AI, like people want to see the balance. They want to see the human connection, or at least have a human like myself there as maybe like a bridge to the next thing, which I respect. I get it. The problem with putting myself in there is that getting yourself in the thumbnails is a lot harder. But I went in, I did the thing where you like crop yourself out and drop text behind you, like the typical YouTube thumbnails like I'm looking at here with the major AI race thumbnail here. I did some AI image generation where I'd crop myself out, but then I'd have to Photoshop my face on because it could never get the face right, It was always wrong, so I'd have to do the hard work of like literally cutting your face out, kind of grafting it on there, changing the lighting to make it look like it belongs. That's this one right here, this How I Beat AI with the Human Edge. That's a great image, but it took me a long time to Photoshop my face onto the body because the image of the person was wrong. I think I created that one in Google's image effects, but of course it looked nothing like me. I tried to prompt it with characteristics of myself, but of course it's not going to look like me. And then ChatGPT, is great, but it never quite has the true likeness of you. But I did figure out a way to get it back to looking like you in a way that's good and consistent, and that's what you're starting to see here. most of the time. Like the last multiple thumbnails that I've created have been this process that I'm going to show with you here. So if you want to use AI to be able to put yourself in situations that are just impossible to like fake, instead of just doing the thing where you take like a photo shoot and you have, like shock face and pointing fingers and whoa, I'm really exasperated and excited, hands up by your side, like YouTubers do, and then they do the little white stroke around them and all that kind of stuff, which I just didn't want to do that myself. I wanted to do something better than that. More closely aligned with like something like what Mr. Beast does, right? Like those are $10,000 images. I wanted to get closer to that without spending $10,000 an image. That's, believe it or not, it's how much he spends, because he has a professional like designer hand draw all of them in Photoshop, right? So I wanted to do something more than that, but I didn't want to spend that much, and I certainly didn't want to take that much time. But with AI, we can actually get pretty dang close. You could see some of these last ones have custom illustrations in it and have me doing things in a different certain lighting situations. They're not like super crazy, like me being eaten by a shark, but they are really cool and they're good. Yeah, the fingers aren't always perfect on some of them. This one, I'm like, wait, what is going on with the fingers? No, it's right. It's just not quite right. But nobody else would notice unless you were looking really carefully on this last one here. But it's pretty dang good, and at a glance it looks good. It looks like me. It's probably like 95% of the way there of looking like me, enough that if you were scrolling through social or scrolling through YouTube, you would recognize these as me. This one specifically is a photo cutout, but you can tell the difference between these are all AI generated and this one's just a photo cutout because I couldn't get that one right that day. But I want to show you what I'm doing because, again, it went from 90 minutes down to 45 minutes, and I'd say the quality of the thumbnail I'm doing now is much better than the ones I was doing before that were either completely AI generated or were like the classic YouTube cutout or this like vintage template thing that I had going on here. So follow along. There is a few unintuitive things that you have to do in order to get it to look like this. So I'm going to go through the process. First is I'm using a custom GPT. You can actually generate these kind of images in custom GPTs now. I'll show you a little bit on the setup on the backside, but I usually use it to use a custom GPT called My Showrunner to help me name and then come up with the thumbnails. Now, I built a separate part in My Showrunner in order to do this, and I'll show you that in a sec. But like for this last one I just recorded this morning, I collaborated with ChatGPT. It gave me some, and I'm like I didn't like these titles. Like I asked for it, like, hey, come up with the title and the title for the thumbnail, because you got text in the thumbnail. It came up with a bunch of different options. I liked the title of one, and then used the thumbnail image title of another, and put them together. I ended up changing it at the last minute, because here I think I had the title is AI Killing the Art of Marketing: Why So Many Are Grieving Right Now. The great title, and then I had a thumbnail of Craft is Dead, Long Live Craft. In the thumbnail, I ended up changing it to Craft versus AI to create more of a juxtaposition, because that generally does well in thumbnails. But that's what we started with. I then had ChatGPT come up with 3 visual concepts, right? 3 different ways to approach this visually, and I chose one. Now, how did it know how to come up with the visual concept? I had to train it to do that. I had to explain and give it instructions in the custom GPT to do that. So here I'm on the custom GPT side of this My Showrunner for post-production. And in the instructions, it has multiple steps, but in part of the steps, it has step 3, thumbnail strategy and visual style and support text. And it is just the explanation of what I want consistently. It says, when the episode title is finalized, create a custom square thumbnail that grabs attention, reinforces the message, and fits the AI-driven marketer's bold visual brand. This involves crafting both the visual concepts that are consistent with the show's aesthetic and a visual style. And here's the visual style guidelines. The visual AI-driven marketer thumbnails share a distinct scroll-stopping look. Here's what defines the style: a man that represents Dan Sanchez. And then it describes what I look like visually. Dan is a man with a dark faux hawk and short hair on the sides. His hairline is receding a bit. This is just me describing myself. I just gave it to it. He has a tan skin complexion and light athletic build. He always wears a black V-neck t-shirt and blue jeans. Like, that's generally what I'm wearing. I do the uniform thing. I generally wear the same thing every day. Bold lighting and color, and then clean composition, high contrast, AI media mashup feel. And then I have a little bit like I essentially, I'm not going to read it all, but it like breaks down the visual look and feel. You could do this yourself. If you already have a look and feel and you're not sure how to describe it, give it 3 images that best represent the look and feel of the thumbnail or the visuals that you're going for, and it will create a style guide for you. That way it's always within line, and every time it builds it itself, it pulls from these instructions and can create some consistency across your visuals. That way you don't have to explain it every time. That's what custom GPTs are really good at. So take some time, put it in a custom GPT, even if that's the only thing your custom GPT does, is create thumbnails. This is a great one-off use case for custom GPTs, is to create your thumbnail style. And now that you can do this in a custom GPT, it's a great way to spin up just a custom GPT for this. I have it baked into a final step of a different custom GPT, but it worked nonetheless. So it wrote out a few different styles. I said, let's go with concept 1, but instead of a paintbrush in the concept, replace it with a pen, because marketers are more writers than they are artists, even though I come from a graphic design background. And I like the juxtaposition of what it was describing. And then it gave me a confirmation. It actually asked me for an image. I actually recommend this every time you have it before you create it. If you're the one or you know the person that's going to be in the thumbnail image, I always give it an image to work off of. I ask it specifically, like, what should the facial expression be in this image? And it goes and takes a second. It's like, for this particular one, it told me I want the eyes slightly narrowed, lips pressed together, eyebrows slightly furrowed, head angled slightly down toward the glowing keyboard. And so I took a shot of me acting it out, of essentially a selfie with one hand and me actually posing and trying to create the face that it was describing in the other hand. And I got it. I actually took one more chance at it because it's like, hey, back up a little bit. I want to see what your whole torso looks like down with this expression on your face. So you can see on my screen here, like I gave it the photo. This is a key part of the process. Always feed it a photo of the person you're trying to do. Not because it's going to get the face right. It's going to get the face wrong, but you're going to need that same photo in a minute, and it will pull from that photo. So here, I gave it the photo. It did a good job of coming up with the general gesture. It's got the black V-neck. It's got my hairline right and my beard right, but the face isn't quite right. But still, this is a good working point, but this clearly isn't my face. I even tried one other shot to make it a little bit more moody, but it just went off the deep end and got too dark. So I ended up going with this one. Now, the next step in this is the step that I learned recently that made this all worthwhile. And it doesn't always work perfectly. You might have to go back and forth between the step I just described and this next step, but it makes a huge difference most of the time for me, is there are free tools online for face swapping. So I just Googled free face swapping. There might be a better tool out there for this, but this one was recommended to me from somebody else. And you can upload here, and I think you can do this for free. I think you get 30 credits a month. I just signed up with my Google account, and I would definitely pay for it if it needed me, depending. I don't know how much it costs, but it can't be that much. And it just swaps the face. This is made for people to, like, if you wanted to swap your face onto like Harrison Ford's body, like this is the kind of tool for that. But I'm using it to take ChatGPT's image of me, but the face is wrong, and then I'm feeding it back that original image that ChatGPT used as a source to do a face swap. So when I click swap, I'm going to use a credit here. It pulls it back a little bit and gets it closer to the face that I made in the photo. And you can see right there it is. It's closer. It's not perfect, because I sent this to Travis, my brother, as soon as I made it. He's like, bro, that's not you. And I'm like, yeah, it's not all the way there, but it's pretty dang close. And most people on YouTube and on social media, if they've seen my videos before, will recognize it as me. And that's the more important part. I'm trying to make the most of what we have right now, and this is the best I can get to. But that's still not the end. This isn't a full thumbnail. Like, I need to drop some text. I need some space on the sides. So that's why going into Photoshop is important. And you can see, like, you can drag something in. This is the full, like, Photoshop image here. Let me get rid of this line. You know, it has to fit between these two lines for YouTube, and then a podcast image. This is my own little hack, by the way, is the full square. since I'm repurposing the podcast episode as my YouTube thing, I like to design it so that everything is in the middle, and then so I could reuse the same design for the podcast thumbnail, which is a square, and the YouTube thumbnail, which is like a horizontal rectangle. So I always drag and drop it in the right place, and then I use Photoshop's content-aware fill, which shortcut for doing that is literally just this can't be a Photoshop tutorial because it would take too long. Let me know if you want a full Photoshop tutorial on just the basics to get by, because Photoshop is a really powerful tool. You can kind of do this on Canva too. But I'm a Photoshop guy. I was a graphic designer, so I already know the ins and outs of Adobe. But if you want a deeper dive into Photoshop and this specific tool called image content aware fill, let me know. If like 5 people DM me on LinkedIn, I will do a full episode on this. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume you either know Photoshop or can go look up specific Photoshop tutorials on how to do this. But you select the photo, you invert the selection area, and then you can go ahead and hit generative fill. If you even give it no instructions, it'll just fill in what we have. And I'll just go ahead and turn the layer on where I've already done this. And you can see it fills it in. It's pretty much seamless. And now I have the full podcast and YouTube thumbnail covered. Of course, that's not it. I actually got in here and noticed that this pen that I'm holding gets lost in the darkness of my shirt. So another cool thing about Photoshop's image aware fill is I just kind of selected the tool, send a little marquee tool around the pen here, and said turn this pen to white, to a white pen, and it went ahead and did that. And look. And now I have a white pen instead of a black pen. That was like really hard to do graphic design-wise. I'd have to go and find a pen and Photoshop it in between my fingers and do all the shadows and stuff. But Photoshop can now do that in just a few clicks if you know how to use Photoshop. It's a lot easier than it was before. And then, of course, I came in and added my text. Now, you can add this text within the image yourself. ChatGPT is actually pretty good at setting text, but I specifically told it not to add the text because I like coming in and fiddling with the text, and I came through a bunch of different positions and played around with the text until I was like really happy with the layout of it. I try to keep it simple, big, and bold, and I use the same fonts every single time now. So I'm trying to keep it that way. So I set the type. I'm also good at setting type. Type is a skill. Like typography is a skill. So like if you're not good at setting typography, just have ChatGPT do it for you and then just fill in around it and you should be good to go. It'll be much better than what you'd be able to do yourself. If you're not a designer, ChatGPT is a better designer than you. So, and then that's the image. We went from just giving it a posed photo of myself, right? Where is it? Right here. Post photo of myself to full-on thumbnail with text crafted. Now, of course, I have a different process for cropping this back down for the YouTube thumbnail, but you can tell just from where these lines are set where that thumbnail is going to hit because it crops from the bottom and the top here. So hopefully it's been helpful to you. I've been working on this process and perfecting it and changing it, but now I've done this exact process multiple times. I know that it works most of the time. Every once in a while I have to go manually and do it, but for the most part, this is working for me. It's creating great thumbnails in a fraction of the time that look visually good and are getting the message across in a really unique and just visually interesting way. Hopefully this has helped a few of you. And again, if you want to dig deeper into Photoshop's AI and want me to do like a more in-depth Photoshop tutorial and how to leverage only the basics of what you need to know plus the AI features, let me know. Again, I want to see 5 DMs. If I don't get 5 DMs, then I'm definitely not doing it because the Photoshop's an advanced tool and it takes a lot of time. Thank you to High Level for sponsoring this podcast, and go to AIAutomationVault.com in order to get your AI automations that I've been building specifically for High Level that you can load into your own account in order to get started with High Level. And again, if this episode has been beneficial to you, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube or a rating of any star amount that you think this episode is worth. It blesses me and is a huge help for this show. Thank you.